5, 6, 7, 8. We're doing so good on those.
That
wow.
was.
Hello, guys.
Hey,
Welcome
guys.
back.
Welcome back to Out of Line. My name is Brynn.
And I am Kelsey.
And yeah, we're your hosts. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Welcome to our show.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Say it with me. Out of Line. I always forget to say that. I'm always
we're like your
and...
hosts and like welcome to our podcast,
Yeah.
I guess.
Welcome to our show. I just did the eyebrow.
Welcome
like
to our
so.
show. We do that all the time. It's such a problem.
Yeah. But okay, so this
Today-
week it's going to be a little bit different because I feel like normally our episodes are very like funny, like upbeat, and like not that this one isn't, but I feel like a lot of people can relate to what we're going to talk about, and I think it's important for us to use our platform to talk about it because I really haven't seen I've seen like a couple people, influencers on social media talk about dealing with losing someone. And I think it's important to bring up because, you
it's
know,
just not talked about enough.
Yeah, and
everybody's
we've-
experiences are different, you know?
yeah, exactly what I was just going to say that like we've had very different experiences. And so everyone deals with their emotions differently. And I just feel like if I could make like one person feel better about, you know, if they lost someone that, you know, why would I not talk about it?
mean, I was just saying, like, I feel like when I was going through what I was going through, like, I didn't really have, you know, any help or advice. Like, I remember looking for it and I couldn't really find it. So I want to be that support system for y'all if we can help in any way, shape, or form. You know?
And so I just wanted to start off by saying, like we talk about it. We've talked about it at church before too. Like, death is something that we aren't meant to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing about me, I'm very much a like, oh, I need like an answer to everything. Like,
I'm a why girl.
I'm a
always.
problem solution.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm like, I just need an answer. I don't really care. And so like losing someone is something that you're not supposed to understand. So stop trying to understand it.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? No matter what happened to them, how they go, everyone has something different. But I found myself trying to like, well, like, why?
Yeah.
Why now? Why the way it happened? And it's like, you can't do that because it just makes it harder for yourself.
It's out of our hands as much as I'm very much like, I like to be in control of things. And so when it's completely out of your control and there's nothing you can do about it, I feel like I found myself in a very weird place because I was like, well, what do I do now? Like, there's nothing you can do about it. And I feel like that was the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around. You know? But yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like I've never like openly like talked about, you know, the passing of like my grandpa, which like it's funny because a lot of you guys like knew my grandpa from Instagram.
Dance grandpa.
Dance
We all know
grandpa.
love
And
him.
like that's what's also like I think so weird about social media is and even I did it like why do we post once someone like died? Do you know what I mean? Not in like a way of it's like, oh, like I want sympathy, but it's just like such a weird concept to me. Because like if you think like back then, like that was like when did that start being a thing? And then it's like everyone knows, and then you have random people texting you, and you're like, what? Why do you care? Like I don't know.
And like when I posted for my stepdad, I waited so long to do it because it felt very weird.
It's weird.
But I also like turned off the likes, turned off the commenting because I was like, this is more so something for me to look back on and less like this is for you guys. Like that was for me more than anything else, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like having like a very public life, like I like had to say something. Like I had to like address it because like people like knew. And so it was like, that's another weird thing about having your whole life online is when like serious shit happens to you, like people expect you to like talk about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which like I'm fine talking about it because I am very much, I don't know. I feel like I always cope with things like as jokes.
Yeah.
And I've just always like been like that. And like I've always been not an open book, but like, you know, if someone openly asks me about it, I'll be like, yeah, like shit happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I've just always like been like that.
Yeah. I feel like
And people don't know how to
I'm
respond
like
to
that
it.
to a certain extent. Like I joke about a lot of things and it's just easier to cope when you're like laughing about it. But when everything first went down, I remember being such a closed book. I wouldn't talk about it at all. There was no talking about it. I don't even think I fully told you what happened until months later because I didn't
Yeah.
talking about it made it real and I didn't want to talk about it because it was like it sounds bad, but like you just pretend like it didn't happen, you know? And that's like the only thing I could do at that
Yeah.
time was just pretend that that wasn't my life.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because like life goes on, you know?
Exactly.
Like the
That's
sun rises,
hardest.
you have to go back to work. That's what's so like, I don't know. Like it's just so weird to understand. Like even like coworkers, like going back to work and stuff. Like I'm just expected to go back and like be normal after something because personally, I was always like told people like, oh yeah, I've never like had anything really that serious happen to me before because I didn't like I never even had a dog die like that. I just like grandparents, all my grandparents were still alive and I never lost like friends or like I never experienced that before. So I think when it like first happens to you, it was so weird because obviously it was like it's like so sad when that happens, especially when it's someone who like raised you. It's like you know, you were supposed to be at like my wedding.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's like what I think about.
Yeah, we often talk about how like we both lost our father figures. Like
Yeah.
they weren't our dad, and so we can't go around saying like we lost our dad. Like it was like your
like, it
grandpa
was my
your
dad.
dad, and my stepdad was mine and will always be my father. I think there's a difference between like your dad and your father. I've always said that. Like there's just a difference, you know, like we'll always have our dads, but like our fathers are different. The people who stepped up and were there when they didn't have to be,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to like, you know, express it just because I know that a lot of kids our age have experienced loss and I just feel like no one like talks about it.
Yeah.
Like everyone is always so concerned about, I don't know, like if it was a, like, I don't know. It's hard because people will like have sympathy for you and they'll text you, but like you don't really know how it like feels.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think when people initially, I don't know if like any of like this happened to you guys or like you, like people who I know didn't care about me at all would text me and be like, I'm so sorry
It's
about,
so
and it's
like
F you, why are you
Yeah.
texting me right now? But then it's like, I can't have an angry heart about it because I feel like nobody coming from like a malicious place
Yeah,
would
it
text you
just
in a vulnerable
feels-
state.
it naturally feels okay. I get it. I obviously get that there's good intentions behind it, but it naturally feels like a stab when somebody's like, I'm so sorry for your loss and I'm so sorry you're going through this. It's like, it sounds bad, but I feel like if you're going through a loss, you just get it. Like, it's just like, hey, well, why are you saying that? That didn't help anything. Like, I get it. You're trying to be nice. But in that moment, like, I had such a terrible mindset that I was like, you don't get it. You don't get it. You don't get it. And it's not fair because these people were trying to step up and be there for me. And I pushed a lot of people away.
Yeah.
A lot of people because I was like, I feel like naturally after, you know, losing somebody in the blink of an eye, like the day before being completely fine, then the next day it's like everything's different. It made me have this new outlook on life because I was like, I don't want anybody to get close to me because like I could lose you tomorrow, you know? And so I feel like my grieving process was very much like isolate and shut down. And I don't know, I just like there's no rule book on what to do when you lose somebody. And so it's very difficult to navigate, okay, well now what?
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's what I was always left with. Like you said, going back to work.
Yeah, like what? Like I'm just expected to just like live, like keep like
And it was
being
so
normal.
weird because like I went through all that during COVID, and so it was such a weird time because it was 2 days before my birthday, and like we had these plans, then all restaurants shut down, and so then I couldn't go out to celebrate my birthday, and then it was just weird. And like I was supposed to go back to work after, and I remember I was working at Goodwill at the time, and I called them and said like, I'm going through this, I can't come back into work. And they were like, you need to give me an answer within the next month or you can't work here anymore. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? But I get it. It's a business. They need their
Yeah, but, like-
employees. But at the time I was like, fucking, that's so fucked. But it's like, you know, it's hard not to think, like it made me mad back then because I was like, okay, well, why doesn't the whole world revolve around this right now? And it's like, because it's our experience, not Goodwill's. Like they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It was just hard because it's
Well,
like,
I remember so vividly. This was like back then when you didn't have any faith. And I remember you texted me like after this happened, just like, because we weren't really friends. Like Kelsey and I weren't
You
really
had
in
just moved
contact.
back. We
Yeah,
were
during
kind of,
COVID, I
like-
was living in another state. Like we weren't really, friends. And I remember she texted me like, "Hey, like I know you love my stepdad, like this and that." And I, obviously I was very close with your
Brynn
family.
was one of, sorry, I'm interrupting really
No, you're
fast,
fine.
but Brynn was one of the only people that really spoke to my stepdad. Like, I've always said, like, he was a very, like, macho man, like, huge beard, like, motorcycle club guy, like, whatever. So a lot of my friends naturally were, like, scared of him and scared of my brother and whatever. But Brynn was the type that, like, I'd come downstairs and she'd just be talking to him and I'd be like, bro, like, what are you doing? And, like, it was just easy to talk
and
to.
so
But
when you
anyways.
when you texted me that and we weren't really that close, I didn't really know what to say to you because I didn't like know where your head was at because like we weren't really friends and we
I think
didn't
I just
talk.
texted you and was like, give me anything. Like,
And
I need
I sent
something.
you a Bible verse and you did not believe in God. And I remember being like, I know you don't believe, but this verse, just read it and whatever you want to take from it, just take it. Like take it with what you will. Like that kind of thing.
That's God speaking
Which
through
is
her,
so
I know
crazy
now.
because now like considering everything like you getting baptized with me and like all that stuff, it just like coming from something that was like such a significant moment in your life and so like terrible, like you never want that to happen to somebody that you love. Just like seeing where it brought you though, like from like all this like dark to like this like light is just crazy.
Yeah. No, it really is crazy, and it's easier to say now than back then, but like it all did happen for a reason. As much as I wish I could go back and change whatever, like I look at that whole situation and how much it's changed for the better.
Yeah.
And it's like, obviously that was a huge thing to have to sacrifice to get to where I am, but I am really happy with where I'm at. And I do feel Dave watching over me all the time. But like, it's sad that had to happen. But at the same time, like that grew my faith so much. Granted, it took a long time, took a lot of Brynn, but it got me here. And it's sad because I always say, like, I look back and if I had the faith that I have now, I feel like I would be so much stronger. But it's so hard to, it's way easier said than done. When you're going through hard times, you have to have just as much faith as you had in your good times. Like I said, way easier said than done, but I feel like that would have given me such a stronger like support back then. But it's okay because it had to happen the way it did. It's just sad because I look back and as soon as I went through this loss, I'm sure some of you guys can relate. My whole world was like, nothing's real, everything's fake. What's the point of life? Like, like.
Yeah. And I feel like at first, like a very natural response to losing someone is like trying to find the blame.
Yeah.
And I like fully was like, oh, like, cause like the way my grandpa passed, it was like a slow, cause it was cancer. And so it was slow and it wasn't as like, we like knew it was coming, which is
Doesn't
like,
make it any easier.
yeah, it's just like the fact that we like knew it was coming, but I found blame in like, oh, why didn't his doctors find it faster? Because maybe if they would have, then maybe he would, And it's like, well, you can't do that.
But
you can't.
It's natural.
Yeah, it's
going
like,
back to what you said, like our brains can't wrap around the fact that this person was here and now they're not. And so naturally you try and go back and find reasons,
Yeah, and it's like you can't blame yourself. You can't blame other people. Everything, such a big believer. I've said it so many times. Everything happens the way it's supposed to, whether you believe it or not, whether it feels right or not. It's like, and mine was still pretty recent, like a year ago. And so I feel like I still am like it's still weird because
it's never something that's just gonna go away.
Yeah, like I still go home and like his room and like it's different and it's like Christmas isn't the same. Like things aren't the same anymore.
Especially 100%.
Yeah, it's not the same.
I remember my first Christmas without him was so like I was dreading the holidays.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's like the best word is it's just weird. Like it's not even like I get like so sad. Like I don't have like I've never had like a breakdown over it, which I think is a little like maybe I should have.
That's also that's not how you cope and that's not
yeah,
how you
I just like
cope,
don't.
So.
And so it's just the weirdest like weird feeling. Yeah. So weird.
And I was debating bringing this up, but I also like want to be a support for anybody that goes through this because I know it's a common thing and a lot of people don't talk about it. But I did lose my stepdad to suicide. And I feel like you were saying with the blame thing, it's so easy to be like, what if this? What if this? What if this? When in reality, like I said, there's nothing that can be done, absolutely nothing. And so it's just like, if that's something that you are going through, like, you need to remember that it's not your fault, as much as it's easy to be like, I did this wrong. And especially like after losing your grandpa, I feel like we've talked about like, oh, well, there was this one day where I didn't answer the phone when they called, and you naturally like go back and you're like,
Oh, I wish I would have answered.
yeah. And it's like, you really can't do that. It's not beneficial and it's not going to help anything. And, you know, you all have your own coping mechanisms, so it's like not a bad thing, but I feel like I needed to dig myself out of that hole. And the quickest way I did that was my support system, you know, like Brynn, like I said, like Brynn said, you know, we weren't really friends back then, but Brynn stepped up like that and was like, I will be and do what you need to be there. And like the same goes like with your grandpa. Like, I don't mean to take away credit, but like Brynn's grandpa was my grandpa. Like, I've never experienced a grandpa. Like, neither of my grandmas are married. And so it's like, I never had that. And so when I met grandpa, I just remember being like, I just literally fell in love with him. He was such a lovable guy. And like,
He's funny because he was everyone's grandpa. Like,
Yeah.
you'd meet him and you'd be like, you could call me grandpa.
every time. I'd be like, bye,
That was
grandpa,
him.
like, love you. And
Yeah.
when you guys moved, like, I remember like crying in grandpa's arms, being like so sad.
Yeah.
Like that picture we have outside of your house. And like, he'd drive us anywhere we wanted when we were younger. And
Yeah.
like,
That's
he
also
was
something
just
that's
such
so
a,
like I think the way that a version of coping that I love is just like talking about like good times.
the good times.
Yeah, like we
And
are
that
right
takes
now.
some time, yeah.
Like that is like the best thing. Like I do it with my siblings. Like when we think about it or talk about it, or my mom.
It's I don't know how to, it's like a joyful feeling
Yeah.
because you spend so much time like marinating in the pain and the loss that it's like, you can't dismiss the good times, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I struggled with like I feel like you can somewhat relate, like having the last memory of them being in a hospital bed is so hard,
it's like
because it's
you
like,
don't want to remember them
you
that
think
way.
of him and you think of that, and that's not fair for
Yeah.
the whole life they lived before that, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I had that memory in my head for far too long, and it's like, okay, but what about this amazing life that he had before that, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard.
It
but-
definitely like makes you like I feel like I learned a lot and like grew up. Like I feel like there is people who have like been through things that like just the way they talk and the way that they
navigate life.
hold themselves and the you can just like tell. And
Yeah.
I know that sounds like it's not like I can like read people and like read their minds, like
I know
understand
what
what
you
they've
mean,
been
though.
through.
Like, yeah, like it's
But
just the
no
trauma
offense,
bonding.
but
like,
yeah, trauma bonding.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you had an experience like after where that person was there and you just like clinged on to them, whether they were good for you or not. That happens to a ton of people all the time.
yeah, I can, I'll kind of talk about that actually, because that's a good
You
point.
should, because I think
Yeah.
it's like a pretty common thing.
Yeah, like there's no way this person's gonna watch, so I don't even care.
They're not, and even if he
So-
did, it's not like you're bagging on him.
Yeah.
Like
No, I feel like, so back then, prior to losing my stepdad, I had this coworker and neighbor. He lived down the street and we worked
slash friend
together.
slash
Yeah. And like, I really liked him for a long time. Like, I spent most of my junior year, whatever it was, like just being obsessed with the idea of this boy. And like, he wasn't ready for a relationship. And so it was always just like me chasing. And then as soon as my stepdad passed, like, there was like ambulances down the street. And like I said, he was my neighbor. So he like ran over, asked what happened, like helped my mom to the hospital, and like all these
like
things.
he was there
that,
for
like,
you.
he was there. He was a good kid for once in his life. And then like right after that, it was like, will you be my girlfriend? And like, I obviously was like so
Vulnerable.
fuzzy and vulnerable and just needing that shoulder to lean on. I don't have a lot of male figures in my life, and then like the one main one just like passed away, so it was like that male validation that you're craving.
Yeah.
And so I remember just being like, yeah, like, and just dating him, and no matter what he did wrong to me, I didn't care. Like, I literally, Brynn knows, like, I didn't care, because I was like, well, he's there when I need him to be. And I've heard so many stories about that, and it's like, it makes me feel better, because I look back and I'm like, why did I do that? And it's because I was vulnerable. And I'm not saying he took advantage of me. It was a two-way street, but at the same time,
I don't think no offense, I don't think that he would be like smart enough to like
no,
be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna ask her to be my girlfriend now because
because of
like,
no,
yeah,
he's
it's
not that smart. He's
not
not.
like-
He's really not.
It's not
Sorry,
like
buddy.
that, but
But it definitely was like he took it, not kind of took advantage of the situation, and I was so open and like, finally, like, no. But I'm grateful for it to a certain extent. Like, But he also did make my life a lot harder during that time period.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like, bro, I'm literally going through so much. Can you just like not cheat on me? And he was like, yeah, no, for sure. And then like,
Sorry, I'm not laughing.
no, it's funny.
But we've talked
We
about
can
it a
laugh
lot.
about it now.
Like,
It's
just
funny.
it's comical. It's so funny. I remember looking at
comical.
him in the face and being like, I literally don't like you. You're so gross.
And meanwhile, like Brynn was actually like being a beneficial part of my life. And then there was this kid just dragging me down.
And I was like, ew.
I feel like what I'm trying to explain throughout all this is like you need to be very wise about who you choose in that time period of your life, because it's like if you're trying to get better, but you're surrounding yourself with people that want to bring you down, what are you doing, you know?
Yeah.
At least
I
that
literally
was
used to think he looked like that
Flat
one
Stanley.
character from Beavis and Butthead.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what that is? It's like the kid with like the
You used
flat
to call
head.
him Flat Stanley all the time. Okay, well, we don't need to shit on Kelsey now. I made a bad
How
choice.
is this shitting on you? This poor kid. I'm shitting on him.
That's on me. I chose that life.
I'm shitting on him.
That was so embarrassing.
No.
Moving on.
You did. Yeah, I chose that life.
I did.
I was like, no,
yeah.
please, no.
And I remember having like the most random people step up and be a part of my life. Like, for one, like Brynn and I not being friends, and then she stepped up, and I was like, and then I had this friend, you know, all through high school that we just like grew apart and whatever. And I think you were living in North Carolina at this point. We all had to move stuff out of my house in 24 hours. Like we had to be out by the end of the day. And like going back into our house like was the last thing any of us wanted to do. And so I remember calling friends, being like, hey, can you help? And like all the people that I thought were my best friends, I called them. They're like, oh, I can't. Like da-da-da.
Ugh.
I remember being like, wait, what?
Are you serious?
And then this one past friend like came out of nowhere and was like, I'm on my way right now. We hadn't spoken in years. And she like stepped up, came and moved everything out of my room for me. And like, that just goes to show that like, it was a wake up call, because the people that you expected to be there for you and then they weren't, it's like,
well, what
really
we talked about
changes
last
things,
week, like, you know, who's a genuine friend,
Yeah.
especially after like something significant happens to you.
Yeah.
You know what
And
I
I feel
mean?
like,
What? Why are you laughing?
no, it's not funny. Just like
Oh.
helping Brynn cope was a very interesting thing for me, because I didn't really know how to go about it. Like, you can't hug her, you can't talk to her. So it was more so like,
Yeah.
I just was there. Like, I just wanted to be there and be present. And like,
Yeah.
I feel like you do well with distractions and you don't like focusing on it. You like being a little
I
distracted.
remember coming home and everyone asked me if I was okay, and I was like, yeah, I'm fine.
Yep. But
And I
it's
still
also-
feel like
yeah.
that. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
I'll have my moments by myself just because I don't want anyone. I feel like I'm very much like just the way I grew up, like being the oldest and like, you know, being the closest to my mom. And as the oldest child, I think oldest children, you know that like you're always the kid that like your mom will tell you things, or, you know, Brynn, stay home and you're like in charge, like things like that. And I love that role. And even like now, like in our roommate situation, I'm still that role. I think I just like naturally, I just
You like being in control.
yeah, I
and
like being in control, and I like
a leader.
being like stable, like nothing's wrong with me, like type of thing. And so like I'll have moments by myself just because like I don't really want anyone to like not know. I'm not ashamed.
Well,
like
yeah.
I don't care, but also like
It's just,
I
yeah.
feel embarrassed when I am in front of people.
I feel like I'm I'm kind of the same way. Like, I don't like crying in public. I don't like, I cry at the most random things. Like,
Yeah.
when it comes to Dave, like I can't look at pictures right now and just like sob. Like, I remember there was a time period where when I first lost him, I would cry over anything. I'd hear his name and just sob. Like, it was just so easy. And then it was to a point where like you almost, sorry to say it, but like run out of tears. Like, you really do. Like, it was to a point where it was like we were talking about, I could finally talk about happy moments and stuff like that. But now it's like every year on his birthday and the anniversary of his death, like I usually cry because it's just a reminder. But it like makes me sad now that I can't just like cry anytime I want to about him. Like, I really can't. Like, there's no, I don't know how to
Yeah.
explain it.
I like
you know?
I never like did. That's what something actually I wanted to bring up is like if you can relate to it or not. I always felt really guilty because I feel like I wasn't as sad as I should have been, considering how like he literally raised me since birth to
I
like
understand how you can feel that
19.
way, but I hope you know that that's more than okay.
No, I know, but I
Yeah.
never like even at like when like his like funeral service, like everybody's like sobbing, and I was just standing there like, this is so awkward.
But like you being the oldest child, not to dismiss Sadie and Noah, but like you do have that like special connection with him one-on-one.
Yeah, I did.
That it's like different than anybody else's.
I don't know. It was
experience
just
with him.
weird because I didn't want people to like look at me and be like, why is she not like distraught?
Yeah.
But it's like, I just like, maybe I will be one day, but like I just wasn't.
Yeah.
And like if you feel like that, like you're not alone. Like I still feel like that.
Do you feel like you had a sense of like understanding due to your faith through it all, or do you feel like you still kind of questioned it all?
Yes.
Just coming from someone like back then, like I had no faith, so I
Yeah.
had no
No,
security.
that's a hard thing because like my grandpa had like grew up in a different religion, and his religion believed things that weren't directly from the Bible. And so I always struggled with the thought of like, oh yeah, I know I'll see him again one day. But then it's like,
But will I?
what
Like,
we
you don't
believe,
have the
like
answer
when
to that
they,
question.
I don't have the answer to that. And so I kind of just have to accept it. But also whenever I bring up this topic, like you have to remember, like when you pass, and if you believe whatever you believe, and if you go to heaven, it's like heaven's a place where there's no bad. And so it's like, as terrible as it sounds, whether or not that loved one is there that passed, that you're looking forward to see, like it won't even matter. It won't.
That was I remember you telling me this for the first time, like, and my brother too, about how, like, when you go to heaven, if your mom's there, like, you'll feel the same way about your mom as you will this stranger that you've never met before in your life. Because, like, when you go to heaven, it's pure and you love everybody and everything. There's no hatred. Like, you'll love them the same as your enemy.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to think
So I
about.
think that was, like, hard for me to accept, like, but there's no harm in having faith. That's what's something that pisses me off, is when people will bag on religion, and it's like, what is affecting you
is
to where
hurting,
like
yeah.
faith is such like a good thing, like what even faith, and like it doesn't even have to be religion, like yourself, you
in
believe that
something
they're in a
bigger than
better
you.
place.
Yeah.
Like faith is such a good thing to have, religious or not. Period.
Agreed.
So I just think, more of the story, like all of this, like just know that we had such different experiences. Everyone has different experiences. And if you ever are struggling, or if you ever need help, or if you went through something and you feel guilty about, like the way I did, you can always text us.
Oh,
like
100%.
always.
Like I said in the beginning, I want to be somewhere for you guys to go and reach out to, because, Brynn and I have had very interesting and individual experiences on it. And so I feel like maybe one person can help more than the other, or, there's no rule book. There's no specific way. There's nothing you can do,
Yeah, there's not.
But at the same time, like, there's little things you can do to help you mentally, like you were saying with your faith, like back then when I was so just bleh and everything's fake, I hate the world, blah, blah, blah. It's like that didn't help anything. And I wish somebody would have told me that back then. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of sad.
Yeah.
But
That's
everything
okay.
happens for a reason.
It
As
really does.
gross and annoying as that is, it really, really does
So
happen for a
cliche,
reason.
but like
Yeah.
it really does.
And like the day I got baptized, the last thing, then we can move on. But day I got baptized, I saw signs from Dave all day, every day.
That was crazy. That was
wouldn't
crazy.
have happened unless I lost him, and he was there to support me. And same thing, like you were saying, I believe in signs. I believe in these things, and a lot of people in the church or out of the church like disagree and think that it's a load of shit. Okay, well, I don't think it's like hurting anybody.
Again, faith.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter.
I strongly believe in signs, and I strongly like have gotten things from Dave personally, and whether it's not Dave or it is Dave, like I don't care. It's not hurting me to believe in it. And
No.
the day we got baptized, we were changing into our clothes, and in the bathroom it said like "Hail King David," and I looked at Brynn and I was like, this is supposed to happen.
Yeah,
like it
it
just
is.
felt so right, and I'll never be able to explain that feeling.
Yeah.
It was just
Honestly,
so,
that was
like,
one of like my favorite days ever. That was a great day.
It was November 22nd, 2020.
20. Wow, that's such like a good number.
I know,
Like
because it was the
22?
22nd, because Dave's favorite number is the 22nd, and that's why he said I was his favorite, because my birthday's on the 22nd.
Wow.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Crazy, but yeah.
But yeah, if you
Hope you guys enjoyed our trauma dump.
Yeah. Trauma
Sorry we're
bonding.
so serious.
Yay. But if you ever want to text us, about like what we talked about or
Anything.
anything.
No boundaries. at all.
310-742-0083. I still don't have it memorized. I never will.
We never will. We'll get there.
We'll figure it out one day.
I hope you guys have it saved though, because
Yeah.
I hope you know you can text us at any point, and hopefully we can do as much as we can to help you guys out. And yeah. That's pretty much
But
it.
anyways, I hope that, you were able to, like, if you were struggling, understand or relate or anything about it.
Yeah.
Just
Even if it's like you lost your goldfish last week, like there's no
I feel for you and your goldfish.
like I always say, like, whether you're drowning in a bathtub or an ocean, you're still drowning. So like
the same.
I don't want you to think like, I hate when people dismiss your pain because somebody else went through something bigger. It doesn't matter. Like, whatever you're going through, your lizard died. I don't care. Text us and we will try and help you. Like, there's no, what's the word? Scale. Is that the right word? There's like no scale
sure.
to it. Text us about anything. We will help you as best we can.
Yeah, but I hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and if you stay till the end, you're a homie.
Comment a goldfish.
There's not even a goldfish emoji.
Yeah, in like the little,
oh, the
there's like
fishbowl? The fishbowl?
there's an orange
There
fish
is?
too.
Oh,
I promise.
I didn't know that. Okay,
I might be
anyways.
lying. Thank you guys so much for
See you
watching.
next week.
XOXO, bye.
Bye.